Hi, everyone. My name is Davi Kallman. I am an Access Advisor and the Awareness Coordinator at Washington State University. Right now, I'm putting a message in the chat for everyone regarding our live captioning option. Unfortunately, we were not able to secure a live captioner for this event. Captioning and transcripts will be available on the video recording in a few days. The video recording will be available on the Access Center webpage after the event. The link to that special webpage will be listed in the Zoom chat. We really apologize for this inconvenience. In the meantime, we were fortunate enough to have our wonderful interpreter, Ashley, who is here today. So those who do know ASL will be able to watch Ashley on the video. So I wanted to tell you all a little bit about the Access Center. This is one of the organizations that is putting on this wonderful series. The Access Center provides accommodations and services to incoming and current WSU students with disabilities that limit their access to the educational environment. Through this, we support self-determination and development of students with disabilities through removing barriers to academic success, promoting self-advocacy, and providing support to foster student learning and engagement in all opportunities available at the university. We also help to foster support through awareness and programming events throughout the year, this being one of them. So we would like to welcome you to the Disability and Intersectionality Speaker Series. The idea for this series evolved from the racial unrest taking place across the country. In response to this, the Access Center developed a statement in support of Black Lives Matter movement and examined its policies and procedures for bias. But we needed to do a lot more. We hope that this series helps shed light on the importance of giving a platform to underrepresented voices. In this series, we will address the intersection of disability and race, sexuality, sexual orientation, religion, and socioeconomic status. The series is hosted by the WSU Access Center and the wonderful Disabled Students and Allies Club. We have a lot of members here today. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Vice President of Student Affairs, Mary Jo Gonzalez. As a low-income first-generation college student, Latina, and single mother, Mary Jo Gonzalez has dedicated her life to leading efforts with energy and enthusiasm, which help individuals achieve their academic, personal, and professional goals. Thank you so much to Mary Jo for being here today.
Davi, thank you too. And I do want to give a huge shout out to the Access Center and to our Disabled Students and Allied Club for bringing us together to talk about disability and intersection. This series is powerful and it is my honor to be here today. You know, it's going to teach us about how we're going to live together, how we're going to hold space for one another and lift those voices that are often unheard. But it's also challenging us to be better human beings. And if you think about it, Cougs Helping Cougs is rooted in this. We are here to learn in community, we are here to understand in community, and we are here to be in community. I do want to thank Davi and Ashley for their amazing work supporting our students. You know, in 2017, when the Division of Student Affairs was asked to lead campus diversity efforts, we expanded it and we said that we needed to really actually talk about community. We needed to talk about equity. We needed to talk about inclusion and racial and social justice. And disability was one of those areas where the university and frankly across the country, we don't talk about enough. It's really on the side. It's one of those things that people say, oh, it's really about accommodations. But I had learned and I had known differently, so I had to do things differently. Back in 2002, just right after I had graduated from Washington State University with my PhD in education, I took a role as a director of a TRIO program in North Dakota. And I had the opportunity in that role to take a professional development workshop. It was a 3-day workshop, and it was one of the first of its kind on how to bring together the theory of how students evolve and grow and develop, and how that is intertwined significantly with disability theory. You know, as a woman of color, it was the first time that I was confronted with my privilege as an able-bodied person. The first time that I was challenged and confronted with my privilege as an able-bodied person. How I was complicit in a lot of treating other people inappropriately and unacceptably. And then I had the honor of attending a very small luncheon, literally 5 people. And one of the individuals, Simi Linton, whose book changed my life, it was called My Body Politic. I was also sitting with Nancy Evans, who was a prolific writer in student development theory, and 3 to 4 others, theorists, who were in that 2-hour lunch. I learned more than I had ever known about student development and more than I had ever known about disability theory. I was challenged, I was pressed, I was heard, and I was listened to, and I listened and I heard, but I also couldn't say after that luncheon that I didn't have any idea anymore. And that's an important piece of this process of becoming and understanding what it means to live in community and be in community with one another. So many of the struggles that they talked about were similar to what I had as a first-gen low-income, youngest of 10 from a Mexicano family, as a single mom. I learned that these struggles are intertwined and that they are enmeshed in our systems and our structures, in our processes and our policies, in the way we think and the way we act. And so many times we point out the individual, meaning that person is the problem, or I have to adjust and modify for that person, when the reality is that we should all be pushing for systemic and structural change, that we should all be questioning the policies and processes that we have on a regular basis so that we can be the university and the community that we aspire to. And it's really important to note what Davi said about this being system and this series being brought out related to Black Lives Matter, because the truth is that Black Lives Matter and disabled lives matter is the minimum. These lives are wonderful, they are powerful, they are worthy, and we should pay attention and should listen. And that really is the thing about universal design. And that is what it means, is that we serve everyone. It goes beyond closed captioning. It goes beyond note takers. It goes beyond providing materials in a different format. What it is about bringing others to the table and giving them the seat that they want and that they deserve and have earned. So as today, and as we start looking at things through this equity, inclusion, social, and racial justice lens, it has to be in every decision we make. We have to be willing to learn and be humble about what that means. We as an institution and we as individuals have to own up when we don't live up to our promises. So it is beyond, by the way, school and healthcare. I am so excited that our speaker today is going to talk about healthcare and the impact. Just as COVID has laid bare the inequities in healthcare, there's been a long history of inequities in healthcare that has impacted marginalized and minoritized communities. So I am humbled, truly humbled, to introduce you to a powerful and amazingly talented Steve Way. He's a 29-year-old substitute teacher by day and stand-up comedian by night. Born with muscular dystrophy, he is an advocate for disability awareness. He performs stand-up in New Jersey and New York. He provides motivational speeches around the country and is co-creator and the star of the web series Uplifting Dystrophy, which can be seen on Hulu. I would encourage you in the Ramy show. He also is on the Ramy show, which is on Hulu. Go watch it. You're gonna enjoy it. And after hearing him today, I'm sure you're going to watch it. So he's been performing this stand-up for quite some time. His first set was at the Comedy Charity Explosion in his hometown of Rutherford, New Jersey. And he has performed at a variety of festivals as well as improv. Since the age of 10, Steve has been doing these public speaking, particularly with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And it is my honor to, again, introduce you to the amazing, talented, and wonderful Steve Way.
Hey, awesome. Thank you so much, Mary Jo. Thank you, Davi. Thank you to everyone watching right now. Big shout out to Washington State University. So today, I'm going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, and that's healthcare. I'm going to first talk about our current healthcare system in America, how it came to be, what it is, how people are affected now, and then I will get into how it impacts people with disabilities. a little bit more about myself. I identify as a socialist, leftist, whatever you want to call it. Mostly for the reason because I don't believe that anyone who gets cancer should go bankrupt. And if you think that's a radical idea, I hope I change your mind. But I'm gonna say right now that if you have that thought and I don't change your mind by the end of this hour, then you're still wrong. I want to. I'll first start by talking about our current healthcare system. Well, actually, first, I have two parts of my life that I guess you could say radicalized me into giving me my current thoughts and beliefs on healthcare. I'll tell you the first one now. When I was 14 years old, I had back surgery to correct scoliosis. My scoliosis was so bad that I was going to basically crush my heart from the inside. If I didn't have the surgery, it was going to kill me. So I had this 4-hour back surgery where I have a metal rod screwed onto my spine. You can imagine how that felt. So I'm in the hospital for 10 days, and I go home, and I'm feeling pretty shitty. I can't eat or drink anything. I can't sit up, can't lie down. I have no energy to do anything. And 5 weeks after I came home, I was feeling worse than usual. And the entire day, my father asked me if I wanted to go back to the hospital. And every time he asked me, I said no. I said I was fine. It'll pass. I'm just having a bad day. So I went to bed that night, and I woke up at about 2 in the morning to go to the bathroom. And again, my father asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. And I don't know why, but I said yes. And had I said no, I would have gotten back into bed, and I would have been dead 10 minutes later. So I'm in my father's car. We're driving to the hospital, and I become completely unconscious about 2 minutes out. I totally stopped breathing. So I get to the emergency room. They throw me on a bed. They put me on life support. Turns out the surgery gave me pneumonia, and it was just slowly killing me over the course of 5 weeks. So I'm in the emergency room. They get me breathing, and then a nurse accidentally overdoses me on the drug Ativan to keep me knocked out for a while. And the doctor rolls my eyelids back. When he pulls my eyelids up and he sees my eyes roll back into my head. So I ended up being in a coma for a day and a half. And about a day after I came out of that, my parents realized that the nurses forgot to turn me over. So when they turned me over, there was a giant bed sore on my lower back. So, all in all, I was on life support for 2 weeks. And I was in the hospital for a month. And everyone always asked, like, oh, why didn't you sue them? Well, I was just happy to be alive. And my parents were too. I remember after going home after being in the hospital for a month. And I remember my parents getting the hospital bill. And it was for $750,000. And I thought, how could that be? I was sick. I needed help. I understand, if I had to pay for my medicine, but I not only had to pay for all that treatment, but I had to pay for their mistakes and their screw ups. And luckily, my father had very good insurance through his employer, but my parents had to have a fundraiser for me to cover the costs that my father's insurance didn't pick up. And just being 14 years old, I just could not comprehend why someone like my family would have to pay so much money for something that I needed and for just getting sick. And it really made me think about, well, what about the people that don't have good insurance or insurance at all? And that really opened up my eyes to how this country operates, and just how healthcare operates in general. So there are two types of healthcare systems. I have a lot of notes, so if you see me looking your way, I'm looking at my notes. The two types are multi-payer and single-payer. And America has a multi-payer system. And that is basically a health system that is paid for through it's paid for by multiple entities. It may include a government, but it's basically multiple businesses. Private health insurance companies participate in multi-payer systems with financing through premiums, deductibles, all that, by the beneficiaries, employers, and in some cases the government. So basically how that works now is that people pay into basically a pool that is paid out to you when you need it. Obviously, when there are poorer or sicker people who are not able to put more money in, they are going to get less money out, which means inadequate care. People who are at high risk of illnesses, people who have like chronic illness, permanent disabilities, they are not going to get the best care because they usually do not have enough money to put into it. A single-payer healthcare system, that is a type of universal...
Just a sec.
Shut up, Siri. Sorry. That is a type of universal healthcare in which the costs of the healthcare for all residents are covered by a single public system. And that is almost always the government. Medicare for all is a single-payer healthcare system. So, how did we get here? Well, I'd like to go over a timeline of basically American history, and just go over some important points and milestones to figure out why do we have the system that we have, as terrible as it is. So I'll go decades by decades. In the 1900s, the American Medical Association, or the AMA, takes rise. And that's basically the, like a big healthcare lobby. Surgeries become more common now. Doctors are no longer expected to provide free services. And it's about this time where America falls behind Europe in valuing insurance against medical costs. See, about this time, Europe already has a health insurance system in place. America has nothing. In the 1910s, hospitals become more modern. They're more sanitary, and they offer pain medications. For better or worse, those pain medications are basically cocaine and opium, but that's basically morphine and Oxycontin now. So not much has changed. Progressive reformers really push for health insurance. The physicians oppose it. World War I happens, and basically everybody forgets about it. Towards the end of his presidency, Teddy Roosevelt proposes some form of national health service, which would be free health care for everybody. But the AMA calls it socialized medicine. So again, not much has changed. Now in the 1920s, reformers are emphasizing medical cost, which is now higher than lost wages if you get sick. It's also around this time where rural health facilities are starting to fall behind. They just can't make enough money to modernize as fast as urban facilities can. General Motors insure 180,000 workers with Metropolitan Life, which obviously becomes MetLife. And that is really the first time you are seeing employers insure its workers for health reasons. In the 1930s, the Great Depression happens, so the focus is shifted to unemployment and old age benefits. FDR passes Social Security, but no health insurance. You start to see private coverage for hospitals by a little company called Blue Cross. In the 1940s, prepaid healthcare insurance begins. And that's basically the start of what we have now, where basically you pay every month, you pay a premium deductible copay, and then you get the care in return. World War II happens. Companies start to offer health benefits to its workers at a bigger scale, which is pretty much your employer-based health insurance today. FDR, before his death, wants an economic bill of rights, which would include universal health care. He dies before that could happen. President Truman wanted a national health plan, but the AMA hated it, and Truman just called communist because, anyone in favor of universal health care is a communist. Throughout the 1950s, healthcare costs in America reached 4.5% of its gross national product. The price of hospital care doubles. Basically, the divide in private insurance really expands, where those who can afford it get it, those who cannot afford it go on welfare. Medicine in America is starting to really modernize again, where more medications become available and the first organ transplant happens. Throughout the 1960s, it's becoming more evident that the unemployed and the elderly cannot afford health insurance. Also at this time, more than 700 health insurance companies are offering insurance. So President Johnson passes Medicare and Medicaid for the unemployed, for disabled people and the elderly. And again, the AMA calls it socialized medicine. Throughout the 1970s, President Nixon renames prepaid health plans to health maintenance organizations, or HMOs. Healthcare costs skyrocket because of rising Medicare costs, high inflation, the expansion of hospitals, and changes in medical care. Now, ironically, during this time, Nixon proposes a universal healthcare system, but it's not single payer. So, Representative Ted Kennedy pushing against that. They compromise, and out of that, we get the Comprehensive Health Insurance Plan, or CHIP. Throughout the 1980s, you start to see the real greed and corruption that we see now. Corporations start to integrate hospital systems, which means basically you get all of your healthcare within hospitals. Hospitals become businesses, and these corporations take control and try to privatize as much of healthcare costs as they can. Also at this time, Medicare's payments shift from the diagnosis to the treatment. So basically, what that means is that if you run Medicaid and you were diagnosed with cancer, the doctor would say, okay, they need this treatment, and Medicare will be billed for that. Throughout this time, you're starting to see, okay, this patient has cancer, we will give them this, but, we can also give them this. It might not work. It might give them an extra month or two of life, but we'll get more money from Medicaid for it. By the 1990s, healthcare costs are rising twice as much as inflation. A new push for universal healthcare happens That's basically Hillary-care, where Hillary Clinton tries to spearhead that. It fails. By the end of the decade, 44 million Americans, or 16%, are uninsured. In the 2000s, medical costs are rising yet again. Medicare is viewed as unsustainable. The Affordable Care Act passes. The AMA actually endorses it. But as we're seeing now, the Affordable Care Act did not go far enough. So as of right now, there are about 30 million Americans who do not have health insurance. From February to May of this year, 5.4 million people lost their health insurance, and a lot of that was because their health care was tied to their employer, so they were laid off because of the pandemic. Healthcare costs is about 18% of America's GDP. In the second quarter of this year, which was April, May, June, United Healthcare, Anthem, CVS Health, and Humana altogether reported in profits about $10 billion. So, as we can see, the private companies are continuing to make profits while people get sick, continue to lose their health insurance, and continue to die. So what does this mean for disabled people? Well, I'd like to tell the second story that radicalized me and really shaped who I am today. I have Medicaid in New Jersey. Well, let me step back a little bit. Medicaid is for poor and disabled people. Basically, right now, sorry, my thoughts are all over the place. Okay, so you get on Medicaid, and you are basically given what's called an MCO, which is a managed care organization. And that means that Medicaid is pretty much privatized, where you get your care from a private company. So, because of that, Medicaid in America is basically what a public option would look like. You know, a lot of times you hear politicians say like, "Oh, I'm not in favor of Medicare for all. I'm in favor of a public option." Well, I'm going to tell you why that's very bad. So, a lot of people like me who are on Medicaid get personal care assistance. And that basically means that we can have someone in our house help us with our day-to-day things, so we're not alone throughout the day. They help us with feeding, bathing, going to doctor visits, stuff like that. And basically, you're given a certain amount of hours per week. And that determines how often you can have a personal care assistant in your home. The average for that is 40 hours per week. Because apparently to Medicaid, our lives are a 9-to-5 job. So now, basically for a couple of years, I had 40 hours per week. But I knew that it wasn't going to be enough. I wanted to move out of my parents' house. I wanted to move in with my girlfriend. My parents were getting older and they were getting to the point where they no longer could take care of me. So I had to get more hours. So I applied for 84 hours per week, which is 12 per day. And that's exactly the amount that I would need to not be alone throughout the day. So I was denied 84 hours, and instead I was arbitrarily given 60 hours. So even with that, I'm now alone about 4 to 5 hours per day. And that's time where I cannot eat or drink anything. I can't use the bathroom. I can't leave my house. I can't lie down. I can't go to the bathroom. I said that already. But I'm also at high risk of aspirating. So I can be alone, just aspirate on my own saliva and die. And you're probably asking, why is that? Well, each state has basically a rubric. And that rubric determines how disabled someone is. So I appealed these 60 hours, and I fought my health insurance provider, Horizon NJ Health, which is basically a subsidiary of Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. And on January 2nd of 2018, I first formally requested 84 hours of personal care assistance per week. Today is September 16th of 2020. I'm almost 1,000 days where I'm fighting for it. Basically, my health insurance provider tells me I cannot get 84 hours per week because I'm not disabled enough. Now, for everybody looking at me, you're probably thinking, oh, but he's gonna probably die tomorrow. And that's totally valid, because I feel that way too. But because of this 4-page rubric that I don't fit in, I cannot get the care that I need. And what I'm fighting for is basically just the bare minimum. It's just enough to not be alone. So, basically what I want you to get from my story is that it's not unique. What I'm going through is something that nearly every single disabled American will go through at some point in their life. Because this system was not designed to keep us alive, and it was not designed to help us. It was designed to make us fail and to keep us in our own homes. I've been in a court battle in over a year now, where the judge has basically admitted to me that if my case goes to a formal hearing, she will rule against me. Again, because I do not fit this criteria of this rubric. So, when I talk about this, my thoughts go all over the place. I've been at this a long time, guys. I'm tired. But the inherent problem is that this rubric is inherently flawed. You know, it's not meant to adequately take care of people like me. And I cannot get private insurance because private insurance does not cover personal care assistance. So I either have to suck it up, work within the system, and just try not to die, or I have to get so rich to where I can get great private insurance and pay for personal care assistance out of my own pocket. And again, what I'm telling you is normal for people like me. So this is what we go through on a daily basis. And it gets even worse than that. I want to tell 2 stories. Nah, I'll tell 3. Because I really want to depress everybody. Listen, if I'm depressed, I am bringing you all down with me. Alright, we're going down the ship together. First, I want to talk about a disabled activist named Bill Peace. P-E-A-C-E. Bill Peace was an activist who worked with the Not Dead Yet movement. And that basically fought for like right to life services. Making that like the go-to solution for doctors when treating disabled patients. Bill Peace got sick and he became bedridden. And at the time, he did not have a hospital bed in his home. And the reason why people like me and like Bill need hospital beds is because of like what happened to me. We are very prone to bed and pressure sores. So Bill requested a hospital bed through his health insurance provider. his health insurance provider denied him. They denied him the hospital bed. And when you know it, the LP's got a bed sore, and he died from it. I want to tell another story about Carrie Ann Lucas. Carrie Ann Lucas was an absolute force in the disabled community. She was a lawyer, and she's pretty much the reason why disabled people in America are able to adopt children. Because before she argued it in a legal case, disabled people were not allowed to adopt children. So she's pretty much the only reason for that. A couple years ago, Carrie got sick. She went to the hospital. There was an antibiotic that could help her, but she was allergic to it. So her doctor did some research, found another one, and it cost $2,000. Ironically, $2,000 is the amount of money that people on Medicaid can have in their bank account at any given time. Because if they go over $2,000, they are ineligible for Medicaid, because apparently $2,000 is a lot of money. So she asked her health insurance provider, United Healthcare, for this $2,000 antibiotic. United Healthcare said no, and she died. So, it always really bothered me when people, tried to fearmonger and say, well, we can't have Medicare for all because we're going to have death panels. Remember when Obama was advocating for the Affordable Care Act, and everybody said, you're going to have death panels. Watch out, Obama's going to kill your grandma. Well, we've had death panels for decades. They're called Aetna and United Healthcare and Horizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Kaiser Permanente. There's nothing stopping them from denying anyone, especially with disabled people, the life-saving coverage and care that they need. United Healthcare straight up murdered Carrie Ann Lucas over a $2,000 antibiotic. Do you really think that $2,000 antibiotic would have broke their bank? When I broke down the cost of what 84 hours of personal care assistance would be for me, it would cost Horizon NJ Health about $1,300 extra a month. The CEO of Horizon NJ Health makes $1,100 every hour. So, money is not a thing to these people. There is no reason why Bill or Carrie or the thousands of other people like me have to die every year I'll tell another story. I had a good friend down in Florida. Her name was Edie. And she wasn't feeling well one day. And she went to the hospital. And Edie hated hospitals. So I knew that if she was willingly going to the hospital, something was wrong. So she told the doctor, and the doctor basically just looked at her and said, "Oh, you're anemic and dehydrated. Go home and drink a lot of water." So we sent her home. Yeah, you know where this is going. We sent her home. She woke up the next day. She wasn't feeling well, so she went back to a different hospital. And they actually ran the necessary tests. And they found that her lungs were filled with blood clots. And they gave her some treatments for it, but it was too late. She was dead later that day. Sorry. I don't tell you this to depress you. I am genuinely sorry that like I do have to kill the mood like this. But you have to know. I think everybody has to know what we go through just on a daily basis for our lives. You know, just to survive. You know, we're not allowed to have a lot of money. We're not allowed to have the bare minimum care that we need just to survive. It is important that everybody knows it. You know, thank you. You know, when you're on Medicaid, someone from the government comes to your house to make sure that you're still disabled. And I'm like, every time I have to do that, I'm just like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Like, the amount of money that's wasted on you coming out to my house. When one, which are just FaceTime, which are just Skype, and two, I'm not going to get any better. When that money can be used to make sure that I'm not alone and I don't choke and die on my own spit. We can do better, guys. We can do a lot better. And it's called Medicare for All. It's a single payer healthcare system where everybody in this country gets healthcare free of service. Other countries do it. It works. It saves them money. It saves lives. And there is no excuse anymore. There's no reason why in 2020 America, the richest country in the world and the self-proclaimed greatest country in the world, there's no reason why we can't do it anymore. And it has to get done. And every day that goes by where we don't have a single payer healthcare system, people are going to needlessly die for the one fact that they didn't have enough money. There should not be a Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Elon Musk and someone like me in the same society. One third of all GoFundMe campaigns are healthcare related. GoFundMe is America's most used form of health insurance. 80% of those do not reach their goals. We need to do better. We need to do a lot better. There's hope. There's a lot of hope. There are a lot of people, a lot of friends of mine who are on the ground and on the internet every day pushing for a better system. I encourage everybody to find the book called Health Justice Now. It's written by Tim Faust, who is a very good friend of mine. Basically spells out how Medicare for All would help us and why we need it. How we can get it. I'd like to think that it'll happen in my lifetime. I'm certainly going to continue to fight for it as much as I can. And I encourage everyone on this call today to fight for it as well. Fight for it for yourselves. Fight for it for people like me. And fight for it for our future. Because it's not self-sustaining anymore. So, in closing, Medicare for All today, and solidarity forever. I'd like to truly thank Davi, Mary Jo, Washington State for allowing me to depress everybody even more than they already are today. I hope people learn something. So, yeah, I guess we'll do some questions now.
Yes. Hi, Steve. It's Davi again. It looks like we have some question and answers in the Q&A box. And I think Rob is, oh, there they are. Would you like for me to read them? Are you able to read, are you able to see the Q&A box? Or would you like students and faculty and staff to ask you questions via video?
Oh, I mean, I'm down for both. I mean, maybe if you want to alternate, if you want to read one and then have someone ask.
Sure, it looks like first we have a question by Kylie. Kylie, just let me know in the chat if you would like our question to be read to you or if you would like to speak to Steve personally.
Oh.
Okay, great. Kylie does want to speak, so we will, Rob, will you please give her access?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, it's not giving me the video option, so I'll just ask the question. You kind of
Oh no. Oh, Davi, you're muted.
Kylie, it looks like we lost you. You want to try again?
I'm back. Let me try to start video really quick. Okay. Hello. You did touch on it at the end, which I really appreciated, which was, recommending that book. Do you have any specific websites or organizations where we can go for more advocacy and just informing ourselves more about the movement, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one, obviously check out that book, Health Justice Now. Check out the Democratic Socialists of America. I've been a member of them for a couple of years. They're really the ones on the ground who are pushing for this. They're the ones trying to get as many progressive politicians elected to House of Representatives to state houses. If you want to check out like disability advocacy, definitely check out ADAPT. ADAPT is always on the front lines of fighting for disability rights. Yeah, definitely that book. DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, and ADAPT. Yeah, if you want to get involved, check out your local DSA chapter.
Steve, it looks like we have another question. One is from Meredith Goodwin. Meredith, would you like to have mic and video privilege, or would you like for me to read the question? Rob, let's go ahead and give Meredith mic and video privilege. Everyone, Meredith Goodwin is the director of the Access Center, so Meredith was instrumental for making this happen.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Meredith, how are you?
Good. Thanks so much for coming today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. My question really is, and you've already touched upon this a little bit, but what really needs to happen in America for change to universal healthcare, Medicare for all? What needs to change?
Well, I think one, people need to stop being afraid of the word socialism. There are a lot of parts of American life that are socialist. Medicare, Medicaid, the VA, Social Security is all socialist. It's funny because people want it. We know that for a fact. I mean, we know that the majority of Americans want a single-payer healthcare system, but they're afraid about how to go about it. And we saw that in the primaries, where in the exit polls, people were overwhelmingly in favor of a single-payer healthcare system, but then would vote for Joe Biden, who said that he was not in favor of it. So it's definitely one part just not being afraid of that word, but it's another part of breaking this tight chain of lobbyists to politicians in Washington. The healthcare lobby is so strong, it's so powerful. They make so much money. It's inconceivable. And I laugh when people say, like, oh, like, yeah, I want Medicare for all, but what about the insurance companies? And I was like, wait, stop. Health insurance companies make money off of something that people need to survive. You know, and the best analogy I give is that people buy flood insurance in case their house gets flooded. People buy cell phone insurance in case their phone breaks. You don't buy health insurance in case you get sick. You are going to get sick. So to have to pay for something that you need, it's immoral. And it's wrong. And people should not be able to profit off something like that. People should not have be able to profit off of people, you know, like me.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So Steve, I don't know if you're able to see the Q&A box, but we just have a
Yeah.
lot of great comments coming in, just thanking you for your powerful voice. And I might ask a question if it's okay with you until we get some more questions from the audience. But
Yeah.
something that struck me, because we've known each other for a little while now, but when I saw the show Ramy as a media scholar, I was really impressed with how you got the message across about disability in healthcare. And can you talk about how that role was created and what was the inspiration for making your character so adamant about healthcare?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you said that because we should have gone so much deeper into it. But Ramy basically wrote my character just as me. You know, Ramy and I are best friends. Ramy and I have known each other for almost 20 years. So, you know, when he wrote my character, he wrote just everything about me. And the thing about me and my life and people like me is that my life is inherently political. So if I get a job, I'm always gonna be like worried about my health care. So like when he introduced me, you know, yes, I'm a substitute teacher. Well, I mean, probably not anymore because I'm never going inside of a school again. But, you know, when I worked, I could not work a certain amount of days because if I made too much money, again, I would lose my health care. So when Ramy wrote that part of like us working together, yeah, you know, it was only natural that healthcare would come up. And again, like I said before, you know, when I say things like, you know, every 4 months, someone from the government comes to my house to make sure I'm still disabled. People think that like I'm telling a joke. You know, they don't think that's real. So to be able to do that on a bigger stage, it's so rewarding.
Hi, Steve. And then we have a question from Nicole. Nicole notes that one of the biggest arguments against universal healthcare that she hears is that it would slow down getting treatment and or make treatment less available. They typically point to Canada. Is that a valid argument or is it just more fear mongering?
No, that's not true at all. I have friends all over the world. You know, I have friends who were born in Canada, born in the UK, who spent their entire lives there. And they are absolutely horrified by our healthcare system. you know, when I say that to people, and they say, you know, oh yeah, I know someone in Canada. You know, they have to wait for like a hip replacement. We do that now. People in America do that now already. You know, I had to get an MRI last year. I had to wait 6 weeks. I'm like, we do that now already, and it's not a big deal. If you need something, you're going to get it. And I remember a couple years ago that case over in England of that little baby Charlie, where the kid was basically brain dead, and his parents wanted to try this like experimental treatment, and everyone was in America was like, oh, they should bring him here. You know, I see. Look at the look at the NHS. You know, they're withholding this poor family care. Well, one, no, they're not, and two, if that family was in America, they probably would have went bankrupt. So no, it's a lie. Whoever tells you have to wait for treatment is an idiot, and just tell them we already do it here, because we do.
Steve, this is Davi again. I have one more question.
Yeah.
And if any other students, faculty, or staff have questions, you do not have to be on camera. You can just put them in the Q&A and I'll read them for you. So my question is that you may have experience, even though you face so many barriers, a lot of privilege compared to some people within the disability community who are part of other underrepresented groups. How do you think their other identities may impact their ability to get healthcare, quality healthcare?
Sure. I mean, I don't want to speak too much on that, simply because I don't know. You know, I'm not going to speak for like a disabled Black person, but for example, the friend that I mentioned that passed away when the doctor just looked at her and sent her away. She was Latina. So I think that's obviously a case of someone not being taken seriously by their disability and just the color of their skin. I can say that as a writer and an actor, as a producer, and someone who is having a growing platform, it's my job now to open the doors and raise the platforms of more marginalized people. Because yes, you know, I am disabled. I want my story told, but I cannot write the story of someone who is Black and disabled, or gay and disabled, or trans and disabled. And it's not my job to do that either. You know, they can and should be the only ones to tell their stories. And that's really my goal in life now. So, anybody else?
I think we may have had one from Rochelle. You may have answered part of the question, but I will go ahead and read it just in case there's anything you want to add. So Steve, and also I want to mention Rochelle is the Assistant Director of the Access Center. How have you navigated the income and asset limits associated with keeping your health insurance, as shitty as it is?
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I can't make too much money. I can't marry my girlfriend. I can't like own a house. Basically the money that I get from acting, all of it goes into like an LLC, and I don't touch it. I cannot take a salary from it. Yeah, basically I just can't have any money in my name. Like I said before, my only real hope is to just make a ton of money to where I don't have to rely on government assistance. But, you know, again, with my growing platform, I hope to change those rules. I mean, I don't, there's a lot going on involved with that, but definitely, definitely trying to change those dumb and absolutely archaic rules.
Steve, we got one more question.
Yeah.
We got another one too. So the question is from Michelle. How does the COVID-19 situation affect people with disabilities among losing their jobs, etc.?
Yeah. Well, it's really funny because for years we've been asking for certain working accommodations. Number one being telecommuting, and we were always told it wasn't possible. So it's really bizarre that it suddenly became possible when a bunch of able-bodied people weren't able to go to work. So weird, man. But obviously the really scary and important thing is just trying to stay safe. When hospitals were just overflowing with ICU patients, a lot of people in the community, especially a lot of people in the field of law, found out that hospitals had the right to basically take our ventilator away and give it to someone who they deemed to have like a better quality of life. So things were really on edge for a while. You know, we weren't sure if like the state was gonna be knocking on our door and taking our ventilators away. So, you know, it's every day something new.
Steve, we have one more question from Jason. Jason mentions that his stepson is quadriplegic due to a very rare disease. He is on a ventilator 24/7, and they're fighting the state to extend Medicaid to assist in covering DME. As you know, once something is labeled as DME, it quadruples in price. However, the state refuses to extend coverage because he doesn't fit the rubric that you explained. Do you know of any organizations or resources he can look into that will assist in making state governments reevaluate the rubrics?
Yeah, I'm sure you can find in your area some like pro bono disability lawyers who do that for a living. You know, if you want to like appeal all that, you know, they'll help you. Reach out to your local state not senator, not representative. Basically the guy who represents your district in Seattle, not Washington. Yeah, try to find your local state house member. No, I'm still saying that wrong. Legislator, thank you, Kylie. Your local state legislator. They are usually like in touch with those organizations. They could probably help, lean on them a little bit. Yeah, definitely I would try to check out some disability rights lawyers or pro bono and reach out to your local state legislator. Pretty much senator. Your local state senator. Again, not the one in Washington. Not the one in the Seattle State House. Wait, is Seattle your capital? Or did I just pull that out of my ass?
Olympia is actually the capital.
Fuck. God, I should know that.
Oh no, you're fine. I mean, it would make sense for Seattle to be, but no, Olympia is the capital. I will mention too that I responded to you, Jason, but I would if you live in Washington, your state independent living council will have a list of resources available to you. And if you're not in Washington, there is almost a state independent living council in every state, and they will have a list of resources available for fighting these type of issues. Perfect. If we don't have any other questions, we actually received a great request from VP Mary Jo Gonzalez, so I will let Mary Jo jump back in.
So, Steve, I really appreciated how you talked about fight, and how we need to do that. That's part of our community and culture. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in joining us in singing the fight song. I'll play it in the background, and Ashley will be signing it for us. And it's pretty cool. I've learned some of them, but not all of them. And I'm not going to try because I'll blow it. Ashley's still got some training on me to do. But would you be interested in hearing the fight song and hearing folks?
Mary, you have to do it with us.
Can we practice a few? Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
I am going to put my microphone on mute, and I'm going to listen.
Sounds like a plan.
So, take it away, Mary Jo.
All right. Ashley, are you ready? Okay, let's go. Go Cougs!
It's great.
The next time we connect, Steve, I promise I will have that down.
And I promise I won't.
No problem. Thank you, Steve, so much. I will mention if you have any questions that you didn't get to ask today, maybe you didn't want them read aloud, feel free to email me. My email, I will put it in the chat, or maybe I'll have Kyle do it for me, davi.coleman@wcu.edu. And I will send over your questions to Steve so he can respond back to you.
Or Davi, if you want, real quick. If they want to just reach out to me directly.
Yeah, that would be great, Steve. Can you put your email in the chat?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. And then also, when we end the session here today, there is an exit survey that will automatically be available once the Zoom session ends. It will be used to grant extra credit for participating classes and programming credit, but also for anyone else who would like to help us understand how our events are perceived by our audience and how we can do better. So please feel free to fill that out. It will take no more than 2 minutes. Thank you so much for everything. Steve put his email in the section. It's www.thesteveway.com.
And if you want to check me out, if you want to message me on like Instagram or Twitter, it's just at the Steve Way.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everything. Everyone have a wonderful day and go Cougs.